What I miss most about New York City is Broadway. That is where I spent all of my time, all of my money. My credit cards show it. And that's where I got my education. And right now we are not able to have that. And it breaks my heart. And that's why tonight my guest is so important. He is a multi-hyphenate. He is a producer. He is a podcast host. He is an incredible photographer on Broadway. He's even photographed me, my headshots. And he is somebody who works with so many notable artists like Idina Menzel. He's photographed Julie Andrews. He is a part of the theater culture in New York City. And I'm so excited to introduce him tonight so we can talk a little bit about his life, his incredible podcast that he has. And I'm going to figure out how to speak in a second because I'm tongue-tied tonight. But I'm so excited to have him on Quarantine But Cute. Please welcome, live from New York, Michael Kushner.
Live from New York.
Hi!
Felt like I was on Saturday Night Live for a second.
Well,
Okay.
I wanted to channel a little bit of Roxy Hart meets Hamilton tonight, so.
Oh, what a combo. I love that. That's amazing. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, just had a nice full day of working and twerking. So
I love it. I love the yellow. Yellow makes me happy.
thank you. Thank you. Yes, yellow is my favorite color because I realized that when I was little, I realized it was my favorite color because whenever it was missing from like the crayon box or the markers, I always got really sad. But if there was another marker that was missing, I wasn't as sad as when I found that the yellow was missing.
I love that. That someone else just said me too. I love yellow. I love chartreuse. I have to be extra and love chartreuse, but it's in the same family. I can't talk today. Maybe it's the moon, but I'm so excited to have you because you do so many incredible things in your life in the Broadway community. And I wanted to talk a little bit about your journey and how it started. I know that's more than an hour conversation, but I just wanted to touch on how you got from A to B and all the incredible projects you're doing and the word multi-hyphenate. Maybe we could start with that.
Yeah, the word multi-hyphenate. So multi-hyphenate is an artist who has multiple proficiencies that cross-pollinate to help flourish professional capabilities. That's the way that I like to say it. I think like the official definition is like it's like a celebrity that does a lot of things. And like one, you don't have to be a celebrity to do multiple things in your industry. That's just not the way that it is.
Yeah.
And there's such a stigma when you start out in the industry, and a lot of people go, well, why don't you just stick to one thing? Why don't you just stick to one thing? And I'm like, okay, but you're not saying that about Mel Brooks. You're not saying that about Lin-Manuel Miranda. You're not saying that about all these incredible artists that once they reach a certain like level of artistry, then all of a sudden they're allowed to produce, they're allowed to film, they're allowed to write. Like I'm allowed to film and write as the moment I graduate college, whenever I consider myself an artist. I'm allowed to perform whenever I want. I'm allowed to direct whenever I want. And no one is allowed to dictate that except myself. And that's what I think a multi-hyphenate is. But the thing about the multi-hyphenate is like, I believe that each proficient, oh my God, I can't speak now. Each proficiency needs to inform the other. It needs to help each other. So like my income with my photography helps me produce projects that I can be in, and those relationships with photography extend to my professional career. So that's what multi-hyphenating is to me.
And I love that segue because the dressing room project, that was beautiful. Can you tell everybody who doesn't know you a little bit about that? And those pictures gave me life. Those backstage moments really
Thank
meant a lot to me, and I know meant a lot to the Broadway community, and made it more accessible to see the stars that you love on stage behind your lens.
Yeah, I've gotten to be in some really cool dressing rooms on Broadway, which is not something I ever really thought I would say. Um, I always knew that it's funny because it's like I always knew that I was going to be in a dressing room, but I never expected it to be like Todd Calls, or you know what I mean? It never even occurred to me that I was going to be photographing moments. But that's how I wanted to tell a story in that moment. Was
Yeah.
I wanted to bring the stories that were happening backstage. And yeah, do theater organizations run features like that? Yeah. Did I invent backstage photography? I did not invent backstage photography, but I I have my own eye, and no one else is really doing it other like freelancy other than there are outlets that are doing it,
Yeah.
uh, and so I also like to tell certain stories. Like when I photographed Jonathan Freeman, it's like I photographed him because he has been a hero of mine since I'm itty bitty, and how his body of work helped me come out of the closet, and
Wow.
you know what I mean,
Yeah.
and how and that I was Jafar for like 12 straight years of my childhood, and that's why I wanted to photograph Jonathan Freeman specifically. The actors that I choose to photograph with Dressing Room Project are very, very specific because they're either like the first at something or they inspire a specific group of
Yes.
people. But it's really been interesting, Dressing Room Project, because like there'll be certain photo shoots that I will post and they get like 200 likes, and
Yeah.
then others get like 1,200 likes, and usually the 1,200 likers are like the alpha buzz, you know what I mean, the be more chill, and that's just a part of the industry. It's like,
But
you
you're not doing it for that. I mean, you're doing it for the story. And I think everyone saw that with what you were doing.
right, it does irk me a little bit just because I want to make sure that it's getting out there. Like I want
Yes.
to make sure that they're getting seen and appreciated. You know, I don't want I love Elphaba. Don't get me wrong. I mean, for Very Me Day at Ithaca College, my freshman year, we were supposed to show up for our voice and movement class, in our most basic essence, and I showed up head to toe green in an Elphaba costume. Like, I get it. It's effective. I love Elphaba. I love Wicked. Do not get me wrong, but there are other things on Broadway that are just as compelling and just as exciting and just as meaningful.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure that those stories get out there as well. But thanks for asking about the Dressing Room Project. It's really weird to be so on hold with it. I've actually gotten
No.
to photograph some backstage moments during quarantine because they've actually sort of been happening. Um,
Tell us.
but yeah, which is cool. So like, let's see. So Alice Ripley did a socially distant outdoor concert out in Holmdel Theater in Jersey, and I work with Holmdel. We're actually we can't announce it yet, but we're in April. We're doing a really exciting project, and Alice is involved. And hello, and Alice is involved. It's just going to be a really, really big, exciting project that we start in April, but out in Jersey filming. And but Alice did a concert out there, and I'm not a stranger to photographing AR. I love her very much. And to photograph her, in the dressing room, getting ready for a show. And then, Betsy Wolf's Christmas concert, shooting Betsy Wolf in her dressing room. But then my friend Anthony Nunziata had a show that he was pre-recording that he filmed at Open Jar. And then there was this off-Broadway site-specific theater down in the Village called Voyeur. And uh, I got to spend time with the cast and shoot the cast then, and it was like this very bittersweet experience, very bittersweet to photograph backstage in this moment. It feels very it's a very full experience, but it's also a very empty experience. It's very bizarre.
Well, the audience, I'm sure it was very limited, right? If they are doing productions, it's spaced
Yeah,
out audience, or
yeah.
how is that happening?
Yeah, Alice's concert was just a socially distant concert out in Jersey, where
Yeah,
was towards the end of the summer. So, so there were lawn chairs outside, and it was really,
right.
really, really safe, really safe. Betsy Wolf's was at a time when Jersey was allowing 10% capacity.
Ooh,
We
so
ha- we had 10% capacity of an audience watching that Christmas show while we were filming it. So it was actually done for a little bit of a live audience, which was really cool. And Jessica Vosk was in that as well. And it felt normal.
yeah.
Good.
Ugh. I got cold chills all over my body for real because the power of theater transcends any other medium I've ever experienced when it
Right.
comes to performance.
Right.
And I was saying in my intro, I truly did. You can look at my credit card bill. I would go to theater by myself, even when my friends couldn't go or afford it. I mean, technically, I couldn't really afford it, right? Because I was putting it on a credit card. But that's part of why I moved back to New York, is I wanted that experience. I so deeply needed it. And not just to be a better actor, but because there's nothing like stage. There's just nothing like it. Sitting and breathing with the people next to you in all those beautiful moments and releasing and feeling the energy in the room, that is personally what I miss the most. What do you miss the most?
Community. I miss, I think that Community has really um, stayed and formed a whole new shape during this pandemic with racial unrest and just being able to tell stories and with Trump,
Yeah.
I think that there were a lot of ways that the community came together and actually showed up for each other physically in person when they could. There were I went to a lot of rallies this summer, and it's it was the community took on a new shape, but I do miss the way that one singular story, one singular phrase of a song or of a musical can make everyone collectively breathe together. And I do terribly, that feeling when the lights go down, reading that playbill, seeing,
Ah,
the gay community. It's always like that line of the boys' bathroom is literally like slept with him, out with him, slept with him. Hi, how are you? So good to see you. You know what I mean?
yes.
I even miss that. I even miss
I may
that.
not be in that line, but when I walk past that line, I know what's happening.
Yes, exactly. We all know each other. And I even miss that. Like, I've never ever left a show at intermission, but I even miss like the moments where I'm like, I could leave now. I could.
Yeah.
Like, I love
That's so funny.
shows just as much as I love great shows. So I mm, miss it all from the moment you show up. I mean, even beforehand, like, what do you want to do? Like, okay, let's grab a drink really fast. I'll meet you at Glass House Tavern at 7.
Yes.
We'll go. I mean, there was one. I saw Allegiance on Broadway, and it was the first time I ever had house seats. When I saw Allegiance, and it was in like 2015, and I was sitting row G. I was so excited, but I had downed two very large beers at Buffalo Wild next door. Yes, Tyler says Glass House. I had downed two very large beers at Buffalo Wild Wings across the street. And my friend Telly, he's singing, and all I'm sitting in my seat like this because, because I couldn't crunch my bladder. I
Oh my
couldn't
God.
bladder, or I was going to actually die. I literally was like, think I literally was like, I think I'm causing like bodily harm if I don't go to the bathroom right now.
Yeah.
waited for applause, and was in the middle of row G and literally had to do the excuse me, so sorry, excuse me, so sorry. And I
That's
think
the worst.
I stood at that urinal for, I think it was a world record of 1 minute and 30 seconds. Had to be. Um, but I definitely felt bad as I'd never done that before. But I miss things like that. I just miss everything in the
I
theater.
know.
Oh,
I know. So now that we've sort of danced with nostalgia, we have to talk about the future
yeah.
because that's all we have is the present and the future.
Yeah.
So I know that you have gone through a lot with COVID. I know
Yeah.
that you have created some magical things out of that. You have your show every Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern, live, My Broadway Memory on the Broadway Podcast Network. So tell me a little bit about that. It's kind of what we're talking about, but you're interviewing people from the community.
Yeah. So I have two podcasts. One is a very professional, I mean, still light and comedic, but it's a very professional podcast called Your Multihyphenate that I release every 2 weeks, exclusively on Broadway Podcast Network on Monday, and then every Wednesday it gets every other, and then on that Wednesday it gets dropped on, Spotify and
Yeah.
Apple and all that good stuff. And it's about people in the industry that do the same thing, that have the multiple proficiencies, and I like different points. Like I love like entry level multi hyphenates, the ones that just released something. They're starting and they could talk about what it's like to start, how they've always been just an actor, and now finally they're like, wow, I'm doing this too. Well, come on, let's talk about it. I think that there are people that are waiting to start something and they need to hear it from someone that just started, because
Yeah.
that it's not that scary. And then we have like someone that's navigating it and getting, or then we have like leading multi hyphenates, like I've had Rachel Brosnahan on the show, and I have Alex Wise coming up, who is you know I'm the executive producer on Indoor Boys, and he's the star, one of the stars of it. He also wrote it and directed it, and we got an Emmy nomination, which was really exciting. And
Congratulations. I saw that.
thank you. And so just people of all levels that are joining the multi-hyphenate world, and specifically in the theater. Like, I can't talk about multi-hyphenate startups or multi-hyphenates in the corporate world. Like, the way that I communicate is with the theater. That's my love language. So, and I want it to be niche because I want to build that community.
And
Um,
you're doing it so effortlessly
thank
because it's just a part of who you are. And I
you.
think for anybody out there, it's not about comparing yourself to others. It's about doing what you know and just starting. You don't have to be an expert. And I think what's so great about what you're doing, and part of why I wanted to have you on the show, is I'm 37, so I'm an elder millennial. I was a multi hyphenate before there was that word. And
Yeah.
I always
we
had like a
were.
million different jobs. I was a wannabe singer, wannabe actor. I mean, talking high school here. I was working at gyms. I was doing, working at venues. It started at a really young age, but it always ended up being an entertainment for me, whether it
Right.
was behind the scenes, in front of the camera, being an assistant, being an actor. I knew that was my world. But for a
Right.
lot of people on the outside looking in, they thought I was nuts. They were like, what are you doing? Why can't you get a 9 to 5? I don't understand. And it would just be so confusing where I would get to the point where I thought that there was something wrong with me because I couldn't quite figure it out. And was I going to be that creator that just creates forever and nothing ever happens? And I had to change my mindset years later, and realizing that my power is in my story, and the fact that and in your story, and in your story watching,
Yeah.
that I had to not worry or compare myself to anybody, but just be in the fruits of all these different fun things that I do. And that's part of what shapes who I am, and that's okay.
Right. Yeah, it really is. I mean, I always throw it back to Elena Garcia, who was my teacher in high school, school that shall not be named, and
That's all
that's
right.
a whole other story. But Elena Garcia was my freshman and sophomore year acting teacher, and she's the best thing that ever happened to me artistically. truthfully. She embedded the multi-hyphenate life into our curriculum. So our sophomore year final, we had to write our one-man shows, one-person shows, perform our one-person shows. Then for the rest of the class, we had to direct our friends, produce our friends, tech our friends' shows. So if I had Emily Katz direct my show, I directed Emily Banks's and designed Nicole Sandler's, and
Wow.
that's it, right. So
That's a lot.
and that is, that's the multi-hyphenate is about the motion of intertwining the proficiencies. It's not about I'm a roller skater, a knitter, and an actor. It's not that. Those are separate things. They need to inform each other. Again, the photography income that I have and the network that I have with photography then helps me produce projects I can be in or I'm passionate about. And then I can write about the experience. The writing is the new hyphen for me. And podcast, I was debating, I was like, do I want to add podcast as part of my hyphens? And I think ultimately, yeah, I do. I think ultimately, yes, because then we talk about skills and proficiencies because we
Yeah.
have, there's a lot of skills that go into a proficiency, like podcasting. So I was like, I could put it under like a personality, as under my performance hyphen, but I was like, there's too much that goes on. The editing, the marketing, the conversation. It's a specific kind of conversation. The planning that, podcasting is its own beast. So like now I'm photographer, performer, writer, producer, and podcaster. And so going back to Garcia, like she really sort of, thank you, Jennifer. And she really sort of opened my eyes to what was really possible. And the fact that
Yeah.
she fully, Randall's hi. The fact that she really allowed me to open my eyes and see that I didn't have to be just one thing. And I never wanted to be after that. Once I discovered, like, even outside of the class, like, she'd be like, Kushner, bring your camera. I have the sketch I want to film. And so that made me get behind the lens, figure out how to tell a story that wasn't just dependent on performing. Because I think, like, there's so many different aspects of me that
Yeah.
I communicate that I can't communicate through performance. I can't because there aren't those projects. I'm not a writer in that way. I mean, I have my one-man show that I've done a few times, but that's a specific story. Like there are other ways that I want to, connect with the world.
Yeah. I think too, though, it's also nice when you are multi-hyphenate, which so many of us are. It helps you take a break from one thing to the next and come back reinvigorated, I believe, because I'm a host, I'm an actor, I'm an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I'm about to launch a podcast. I do a lot of different things. And I was a podcaster in 2005. And
Yeah.
now all of a sudden, years later, I'm coming back to it. And it's like, you never give it up. You just sort of morph into different things and you can come back and revisit. I think being a multi-hyphenate is incredible in that way.
Thank you. And it's funny that you said that. I actually just talked about that on an episode I recorded today or yesterday about how focusing on one of your hyphens can let another hyphen then rest.
Yes.
And it actually makes the it was today because we were like, oh, the industry shouldn't be your life. And I was like, yeah, okay. But at the same time, if you find a way to delegate energies in the industry where you're not constantly auditioning and getting rejected, but
Yes.
you also have agency for your you also have agency for your other projects, and you're like, you know what, I'm going to produce this thing today, or I'm going to record, I'm going to create this podcast today. You're not answering to anyone. You're creating your work all on your own. There's no casting director to tell you no. You're doing it all on your own. And that's not rejection. Your body is finally, for once, not getting rejected.
Yeah. I feel like we are so on the same plane in that. And I think when I first met you, we didn't really, I mean, obviously we didn't know a lot about each other, but seeing you as a photographer photographing me, the calmness, you know exactly what you were doing. You were very well versed in that. I don't feel like that was one of your hyphens. I feel like that was a big part of who you were and who you are. And you were so good at it. You were more of a master, right? Than just like, I do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I mean, I feel that way about you because I've seen your work and you've shot me. But
Yeah.
I guess what I'm saying is then to later watch you do these other projects and see how you're hyphening on, hyphening on, hyphening on. It's such a beautiful thing to watch someone do that because you see this metamorphosis, right? Of being a deeper creative. And like we were saying, for anybody just joining, you can take a step away from one hyphen part of your life and go to the other. And that is honestly what saved me in New York, because I
Yeah.
wasn't just acting. I was also an event producer. I've also worked in film, television, and tour production for over 15 years. And where it used to be frowned upon, now it's embraced. And
Yeah.
so your podcast helps people. It gives them the permission to say that's okay. I'm enough, and I can do all these things, and I can be proud of that, and I have a safe space where I can talk about it.
It really is kind of baffling to me that we have to even talk about this.
I
Like,
know.
it's really weird that there's such a stigma of doing more than one thing that like never ever in a million years. Like, of course, in this industry, which I love this industry. I
It's a,
thing I've been a part of this industry for 20 years, 21 years.
yeah.
So I think people like are like, who's one time I've actually had a few clients that have come to my door, look at me and go, "Is your dad home?" And it makes me LOL. But I'm like, your picture today, and like I know I look like a little pisher. I know I look 16, but like I've been in this industry for 21 years. As I worked as a child actor,
You know
and
what? I said 15, but it's longer than that. We're just going to make sure that I'm younger than
yeah,
37.
sounds good. I love that. But but it's very much embedded in me. Like I think I
Yeah.
deal with rejection. I mean, still I get fucking upset over shit, but like I think with rejection, it's because like I'm used to it. I've had my heart broken. I had my heart broken in a really formative time in my life, like when I was 13. Like, I was called back for 13 on Broadway, and I was like, this is my, you know, I flew up for my callbacks. Like, it was like I thought that was gonna be my big break. I remember I was doing the show in South Florida, a regional theater, and I was doing 8 performances a week. And
Wow.
I started out
How
doing.
how old were you? Sorry.
I was 13.
Well, you had
I
the energy then.
Yeah, and I mean, 8 performances a week is normal. That's what we do on Broadway. That's what we do in regional theaters. But as a 13-year-old who was in middle school, I was picked up at 12 o'clock every Wednesday and Thursday to make the 2 o'clock matinees. But at the start of the contract, I had an alternate, and he did 2 shows a week, and I did 6. We're friends to this day. He's a part of the industry. Um, the creative team, about 4 months into the run, about a month into the run, I got all 8 shows a week. He got 2. But
Wow.
I remember, I mean, I got all 8 shows a week, and was doing something else. But I remember the creative team asked me to go close the show up in New York because it was running off Broadway. We were
What?
do- we were doing the South Florida production. They asked me to do it, and then the next day they retracted the offer and asked my alternate to do it.
Oh, frick.
And it was one of the best things that ever happened to me because I was fucking upset.
Yeah.
bad. And I was like, I remember having a conversation with myself when I was 13, being like, I got to get used to this if I'm going to be in show business, because there was nothing,
Wow.
you know.
The fact that you had the headspace of 13, see, that's why I stopped acting, because
Yeah.
I was getting rejected in high school and I wanted these bigger roles. And so when I didn't hit, I talked about this today on Clubhouse. This is so crazy. If I didn't get that lead role, Rizzo in Grease or whatever it was, and then I was like in the chorus or tech or whatever, I just thought I wasn't good enough. And so I I basically valued it just had to be a big role or it wasn't good enough for me.
That's interesting.
It was really sad.
Well, when I went to high school, I went to my high school in a full performing arts scholarship. And I was cast as a lead my freshman year. We did Big the Musical, and I was cast as young Josh Baskin, the kid. Our high school was connected to an equity house, and so we had adults in these shows, and which was really awesome. But I was cast as young Josh because I was a male identifying actor whose voice had not yet changed, and I looked 8 years old. I was 15. I looked 8.
I can
And
see that. You have a baby face.
yeah. And so I was fully just like soprano. Like I used to be able to hit the highest note on the piano, soprano. And overnight, my voice changed. I was singing Defying Gravity one night, and then overnight, my voice changed.
Oh my God.
And that was after the show, thank God. But I came back to school sophomore year. My voice was actually changing, and then getting cast until my senior year was very difficult. Why? Because now I wasn't my thing, my niche, the thing that I was marketable for, even in high school, but it was still professional, it was still an equity theater, was no longer there. I was now a part of every other teen boy that was going through puberty, and they said, what are we going to do with him? He can't hit those notes anymore, so that's not how we're going to cast him. On that micro level, that's what everyone in the industry needs to realize, that
Yeah.
we all have a very specific thing that we sell. And for some of us, it is much harder to figure out than others. Like let's look at some people, okay? Let's look at Lynn. Let's look at Mel Brooks. Let's look at Judy Gold or Rosie O'Donnell. Let's look at Rosie Perez, right?
Yeah. Very niche.
All these people work. They get a lot of work. A lot of work. Why? Because they have a specific point of view and a specific story that they are able to bring into the specific auditions that they go in.
Yeah.
And for some reason, actors, us, we feel like we have to whore ourselves out to just about every single audition, stories that we don't resonate with, stories that maybe we can be in, but not the ones where what I'm trying to say is we blend in the things that make the auditions that really showcase what makes us special, mixed with the ones that we're going to get blended in the crowd. So that rejection looks like we're getting rejected.
Yeah. When you're not.
Right. Or when we throw ourselves out there like that, we can't really pay attention to the patterns, because
That's true.
Say I was age appropriate to do Roger Debris and the Producers because that's my dream role. Okay. Say I looked like Gary Beach. I was the age, I was the body type. Didn't have the baby face anymore. Great. And I auditioned for that. But at the same time, I auditioned for Wicked, for Come From Away, for The Color Purple, for Miss Saigon, for
Yeah.
all of these shows that don't really make sense for me if I'm auditioning for Roger Debris in that point in my life. If I get rejected from Roger Debris and I also get rejected with all of those shows, what's going to happen is I'm not going to really understand why. I'm not going to understand that it's that the reasons I got rejected for those shows are different. And those like, we are allowed to have agency as artists. We are allowed to say, I don't want to go on that audition. I don't have to go on that.
Thank you.
I don't have to. I don't know where it came from, where if you're not showing up constantly to every audition, you're lazy.
Or if you're not saying yes to everything, then you're ungrateful.
Well, or, I mean, saying yes and no is a very, very specific matter, right?
Yeah.
Because, like, yeah, you never know. And look, we have to stop living our lives with the idea of, like, you know, she went to that tap call and she didn't know how to tap, but boy, she fell flat on her face, made a moment out of it, and they loved her and cast her and wrote a role for her. Like,
yeah,
that shit does happen, but every once in a while, like,
yeah,
once in a while.
That's a great example.
It doesn't mean that you should go to that audition that you are going to fail. There was one audition that I went on when I moved to the city because I did the pre-Broadway tryout of On the Town, and it was at the top of my resume because that's the most impressive credit I had at that time.
Yeah.
And so casting directors saw that and assumed that I was a dancer. I didn't have the dancing track in On the Town. I walked on, said a funny line, walked off, did a costume change, walked on, said a funny line, walked off, did a costume change.
Oh, no.
So I was called in to do my agent at the time got me an appointment for the Radio City Spring Spectacular musical, the spring musical. And it was the mover call. It might have been the mover call. It might have been the dancer call. And I didn't know that I could say no.
Yeah.
So I went. And literally, everyone that was there was in a Broadway show currently in the ensemble, dancers. And I was just like,
oh my God, Michael.
and not only was that thing, it was in the official Radio City rehearsal space.
Whoa.
with the rehearsal band. So it wasn't just a piano player, it was drums. It was like, it was a band. Yeah, it was full on experience. And the person that leading the audition was Tony winning legend choreographer and director Warren Carlyle. So I'm
sorry.
Oh yeah. No, it was so I fell flat on my face. Literally and figuratively. And
I'm crying because I just feel that moment.
Yeah. But if I had the experience that I have now, I would say, fuck no. I'm not going on that. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Where are my Shakespeare plays? Where are my new musicals? You know, where's this, the very, very specific things.
I am so glad you said that. I didn't mean to cut you off, but it's so important what you just said. And when people play this back, that is such an important thing that someone even just said, this is so important for actors to hear. And it really is, because my previous agent put me on a huge guest star audition opposite Bill Pullman. And I had less than 24 hours to learn like 5 pages. And I knew, I knew that there was just no way I was at that level yet. I just knew it. And it wasn't because I didn't think I was good enough. That's hogwash. We're all good enough. But that's a whole other conversation. It was just like, it was bad. Okay. It was bad.
It's not even level. It's, I'm not that dancer. I'm like, I could step, touch, and sell the shit out of a song. I could do a double pirouette, but they were doing triple, quadruple, and they were kicking their face and just gliding across the floor and being beautiful. But I don't. But that wasn't. But even down to the nitty gritty, it's not a story I wanted to tell. I didn't want to
Sure.
be. I didn't want to be doing that. I thought that I had to
Yeah.
in order to make my agent happy, in order to uh, try to make my ex-boyfriend jealous that I booked it, or that he would find
Uh-huh.
out that I like, go getting into that room. You know what I mean? Or
Yeah,
like,
I
or
do.
or like like convincing my parents that like I'm getting into all these rooms, like blah blah. No, I shouldn't have fucking taken it. I should not have taken that audition because Warren Carlyle literally down the line, he was like, "Oh, thank you, Craig. Oh, thank you, oh, thank you, thank you, Jimmy. Thank you, blah blah blah." And I was like, and I'm Doonies. Like I literally was like, "Oh my god." So I actually, Lauren Elder just said I got called in to audition for Alpha and literally said, "I'm not that girl." That's hysterical. I mean, like,
Yeah.
but that's the thing. It's like with auditions, like I witnessed my friend's final callback for Elphaba, and they made her leave, go change
Wow.
into a black dress, come back and do her final sides. But like 3 years before that, you were not supposed to wear black as Elphaba. You were supposed to go in jeans and a flowy sweatshirt, whatever, and like be
Right.
cool. All of a sudden, they wanted her in a black. So like the thing about it is like you'll never know what to do perfect. Like that's the industry. You'll never ever know what to do for a
Yeah.
perfect. It's just I think the thing that will help is if you know the stories that you're supposed to tell. If you know the stories that you are supposed to tell, it will make that audition all the better for yourself. That way, that if you are rejected, if you do not book it, it's not based on what you did. It's based on the fact that they already cast a
Yeah.
dancer that's 17 inches taller than you, and you know that's just the way that it is. And also, I see, yes, what is the work you want to do as an artist, not just pursue it. Yeah, you don't have to pursue everything. I mean, like, that's the end. Like, yeah, I mean, I don't know how else to say it. Many young artists think that they have to show up everywhere, and they just don't.
Yeah. And I love that you said that. I didn't know we were even gonna. That's what I love about doing unscripted is I just never know where it's gonna go. And this is sort of my wheelhouse. And honestly, I was having that moment right before COVID, trying to figure out what is my type. Uh, what room should I be going into? I just started acting again like 4 years ago. You know what I
Congrats.
mean? Thank you. And I got some pretty big roles pretty quickly. And then COVID hit. And it was like honestly the best thing ever in ways because it sat me down to figure out what is my gift, what is my type, what I'm still figuring that out. But I think it's important to take that extra time so in the long run you can actually book these auditions. Like people don't, and a side note, Josh Pice is my acting coach. People don't want to see you act; they want to see you. So it's really about where I come from, at least from set life, not necessarily all theater life. You're definitely the theater person more than me. I've only done like one off Broadway show, but I mean, that was what caught me up in auditions a lot is I was bringing who I thought they wanted to see and not bringing who I was. And I
Right,
booked the ones where I was showing who I was through the
right.
character and not hiding
Yeah.
behind what I thought they wanted. And it sounds so simple, but it's very hard to do sometimes.
One of my favorite, I almost booked an episode of Penny Dreadfuls once, and
Ooh.
it was literally between me and two people, and the other two people were very tall, very blonde, and very sexy, and I was like, okay, um, but I did well in that audition, and I barely moved my face.
Exactly.
I didn't do shit in that audition. But it was amazing how much I had prepared for it. I prepared and let go in the room, and that's what I want people to do with headshots in my studio, right? It's about there's a lot there's a lot of preparing to do in for everything that we do, we need to prepare wholeheartedly for. But for a headshot session, because that is the way that you get into a room, that is the way that you introduce yourself to the industry. Hello, Coach Patrick Morales. Um, because that is your invitation to the industry. I what was I just saying? I just got an email that distracted me. Because
Okay.
because that is your your introduction to the industry. I You have to be so motherfucking specific. Like, there's so much work to do to prep for your headshots, but then here's where the kicker knows. You just let it go at the door. You let it go. You
You were the
have to.
best at that. You're the
Well,
best at making people feel comfortable because you know me. Was stressing out. I was late. You're like, don't worry. We're going to get what we need, even if it's quick. And I trusted you. And I told you the other day, I wish I hadn't worn so much makeup. I mean, those
yeah.
headshots got me into so many rooms, by the way. I mean,
Oh, good.
I'm here in a lot of ways. And Irishman, all those things that I was able to do, those were your headshots, just so you
That,
know.
I mean, the thing is like, I think a lot of people expect the headshot photographer to solve all the issues, right?
Yeah.
Like, but that's not how it is. I mean, I can do my job of like going on lives or like doing a podcast and making a really, really, really fleshed out specific, also actor CEO, love you, really, really, really specific packet that is like down to the nitty gritty of like drink water, you know, from my address to like drink water to like bring this type of outfit. And people don't read the packet. Because they will literally email me the day before and they go, "Where's your address?" I'm like, "It is the first in the packet."
I'm
And that's
pretty sure you told me that as well.
right. And that's how I know that people don't read the packet, when literally all your answers to a from the second you send in a deposit with me, you have all the answers to what a successful headshot session is.
Yeah.
You have all of them. And it takes work. You cannot walk into a headshot session and go, and because I'm going to ask you, I ask every client, I go, what do you want today? What are we doing? And I get a lot of people that say, I don't know. And I'm like, okay, now is not the time to figure it out. Now the time is to apply it. You can say, like, you're allowed to say I don't know in your career for whatever you want. But what I want you to do in the studio, since you are about to drop $500 to $1,200
Yeah.
package, is you need to commit to something now, baby, or you're gonna waste $1,200 looking against my backdrop, looking like a deer in headlights. Because because
Yeah.
I treat it like it's a rehearsal room. You know, we're working, we're breathing life into these photos, and I will never make you feel bad about it. They're your photos.
Yeah.
Um, but I will be upset about it because I want them to represent you well, and the work starts with you. The work
Yeah.
starts with you and it ends with you. I just help you get it on to the page.
I can't wait to work with you again because I haven't shot with you since 2017 and
Now,
haven't I only have one other headshot from somebody else besides you. I still use those headshots. I mean, here I am with a wig being silly because wigs have been giving me life, but I think I came to a point through COVID where I was ready to stop hiding myself in so many ways. And you want your headshots to match that. You don't want to be hiding yourself. You want people to see you because when you walk into a room, if you look nothing like your headshot, it's like, what's happening? It's a waste of time.
now, you know, it's interesting because you were like, I shouldn't have worn that much makeup. But like also, if, if you wear makeup.
Yeah,
I'm
that's true.
I'm not like, I love clients that bring crazy patterns. I love client because as long as you commit to it and it is a part of your essence and your why as a performer and your presence and your whole package, I don't care what you bring. Just tell me the fucking story through your clothes. through the colors that we choose, through your makeup choices. If you say, nope, this is what I do and I'm committing to it, I will literally go, okay, let's do this. Like, it doesn't matter. You can use anything, almost anything. Hello, Rebecca. You can almost use anything as a headshot, and many people will disagree with me, but you could almost use anything as a headshot today. It needs to be done professionally, but I'm talking about, like, you can do almost anything with a headshot photographer as a headshot,
Yeah,
as long
totally.
as you commit to the energy of it. Like, look at Jen Colella and Josh Lehman's photos, right? They ain't even looking at the lens. They are over
Yeah,
here. And it
that's
is
true.
essence to a T. It is their essence to a T. And I love that.
Okay,
And
can you please teach a headshot masterclass on Zoom for people? Because that was epic.
I mean, I could do like maybe I will. I mean, I could
You
do
should.
like a headshot tips and tricks, and it's $5 and I donate to an organization. But I
Broadway
mean,
Cares or something. Yeah.
I would donate to an organization that betters the lives of Black artists. Definitely. But that's another thing that's been incredible about this awful time is understanding, like, where the priorities of my stories. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to say that I'm self-focused, because I do think about others, but I didn't really acknowledge my privilege before this pandemic, and understanding that, like, wow, we are in fucking trouble and my friends
Yeah.
are in trouble, you know? And and that was another thing, was understanding, like, socially responsible artistry. Like, the space that I'm taking up with this Facebook post or this Instagram post, the space that I'm taking up, is that taking away from someone that needs to post about an organization that needs funds or help, or unfortunately, like, trans people of color are going missing, they're being killed. Like, why would I take up that space and go, watch, like, I'm going live, like, not saying that, but, like,
I know what you're saying.
I was having those conversations, like,
Yeah.
still broadening the Michael Kushner photography, the Michael Kushner, the Dear Multihyphenate brand and the experience, because yes, there are actors that need help. Yes, I do need to pay my bills. Yes, I do need to inspire people to keep going, but my friends are dying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And not only do I need to pay my bills, but I also need to heal from COVID, because I had COVID and I'm a long hauler. So I'm sort of like, well, there's a lot to juggle right now as an artist, but first and foremost, like, getting your headshots, building your website, figuring out TikTok, figuring out Instagram. The most important thing is understanding our socially responsible artistry, and that needs to be brought into. It is no longer acceptable in my eyes to go, why are you in the industry? Why do you do what you do? Because I love it? No, fuck off. No, no more. No more. You have to be taking up this space, especially as a white person, if your art is gonna do something. And that's the tea, mama.
I hear you. Were those wipes?
Lysol wipes, yeah.
Oh my god.
Because the studio is COVID safe.
Oh my gosh. So if anyone has any questions for Michael, now is the time. We have about 6 minutes left. You can put it right in the comments or you can hit the question mark. Let's talk a little bit about what is coming up for you and some collaborations that you can talk about.
The hell is coming up for me? So okay, there's a good amount. Well, I have a lot of exciting podcast guests coming up, which is exciting with your multi-hyphenate. But my other podcast, My Broadway Memory, keeps Broadway alive, and that's tomorrow night with Andy Carl and Orphe, and we're doing a double date episode in the spirit of Valentine's Day. So that's 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. If you follow me on Instagram at the Michael Kushner or at My Broadway Memory, you'll see more details. So you can watch that live tomorrow at 7. We are securing incredible guests for the next episodes for My Broadway Memory. I literally cannot even over
Oh,
it.
I just felt it.
Yes, so then there's that. Then I am working on this film in April with Alice Ripley, which we will talk about. I will announce at another time. Oh, here's a big thing. If you would like to take my workshop and learn how to be a better multi-hyphenate, Multihypes Session 5 starts March 1st. It is a 5-day workshop. You have 2 days off. It's Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We give you homework assignments, specific assignments that will help broaden your multi-hyphenate experience as well as narrow your multi-hyphenate experience. So
I love that.
yes, it's very cool. It's very exciting. So there's that. And so you can take my workshop. You can watch my stuff. Indoor Boys is on Amazon Prime. You can take headshots with me. You can follow me on TikTok at the Michael Kushner. You can follow my podcast at Your Multi Hyphenate. I'm doing some cool stuff with the Skivvies. We're doing we did for Christmas time. It's a Wonderful Life radio play with the Skivvies.
Nice.
Now we're going to be doing The Importance of Being Earnest, starring the Skivvies and Nathan Lee Graham. And then we're also going to be doing a concert, but I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about that. So anyway.
Lots of stuff. And so let me ask you this. With all this stuff going on, I'm very much like you, always a million projects, a million things. I get it. How do you relax? What is your thing?
I don't. I'm just kidding. That's a really good question.
Self-care, as we know, is extremely important.
I know.
Especially after what you went through.
I know. Well, I'm in therapy now, which has been helpful. I'm on day 44 of Whole30.
Oh, that's amazing.
Because it's helped. I mean, I've had like 1 or 2 cheat days, but because now I'm past the 30. But like, it has helped with my COVID symptoms drastically. My long hauler.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, like COVID is really, the long hauler stuff really fucked me up. I've had to get a colonoscopy. I have had an echocardiogram, stress test, EKGs. I mean, like it has been a mess. But yeah, like Whole30 has certainly helped. And how do I relax? Watch Drag Race every Friday. I play with my puppy. I mean, I work crazy hours, but what I'm trying to do is close my computer at 5 p.m. or at least start to close my computer at 5 p.m.
The beginning.
Right. That's
good. It's good intention.
Moving inch by inch. But yeah.
I love that. It's hard when I mean, it's a privilege to be able to do all your dreams, right? And have that time to where you can pursue dreams. Some people don't even get to do that. And so I think we're blessed in that way that we can go and create and express and hold space for other people. But you also really do have to hold space for yourself, because it's a really important thing to be drinking water, to like make sure you step away from screen time. And I am the worst because I'm on Clubhouse all the time. One thing before we go, I want to tell everybody, this is something I learned from a neurologist, okay? This is something you're going to do with your eyes to refresh your eyeballs after looking at screens forever. You take your eyes almost as if you're rolling your eyes at somebody, and you just follow the peripheral in a circle, and it's like an eyeball massage, and it's a great way to just like refresh after you've been staring.
Once?
I mean, you could do it a couple times. just like he's rolling his eyes at me. But yeah, it's like, because we're usually like this, right? So it's just giving a little exercise, and it's actually a calming exercise, the neurologist said. So I
Yeah.
think we need.
Well, thank you, Lauren. You are also every hour look 20 feet away.
And
Die.
die for 20 seconds? What did she say? Eye doctor advice.
Um, also every hour look 20 feet away.
Yeah, just gaze, I think, is what
That's
she's
not,
saying.
oh, she said 20 feet away for 20 seconds. I love that. Also,
Yeah, it's so important. It's so important. I appreciate you being here
oh
so
my God,
much.
that was
Please.
lovely conversation. Very exciting. You messaged me before and you're like, want to sing? And I was like, no, I'm not singing. That
Well,
was
who
my
knew? I didn't
cruise.
know if you were going to come on the show and be like, here's my multi-hyphenated life. Let's do it all.
Oh
You
my
just
God, that's
never know. I just
no,
leave
no, no.
space in case people want to do stuff last minute,
Oh my
like
God.
my guest last week. You know, she was like, yeah, I'll play something. You never know. I just wanted to leave some extra
No,
space for you.
I just like one. Oh, my friend got a prescription for hydroxychloroquine, hydroxychloroquine, hydroxychloroquine. Maybe there's a second.
No,
It's a C. I don't know what hydroxychlor. I don't know what the last syllable is. Hydroxychloroquine.
I don't
Hydrox.
know. But just like you're a long hauler with COVID, I got poisoned by Cipro and it made me hallucinate. And like, anyway, Big
What's
Pharma scares me.
Cipro?
Ciprofloxacin. People say they've been floxed. It can make you like hallucinate. It has a black box warning on it. It's a fluoroquinoline in the same family of what they were trying to give us at the beginning of COVID. That the man I don't want to name was promoting. It's in the same family as that drug, and it helps with so many different things from travelers like diarrhea to like different issues that people have. And so they gave it to me and I was in New York and I woke up and I thought I was dying and it caused a lot of mental health issues and a lot of physical issues. And so it's really scary. Like I went to just some sort of like urgent care, which was a huge mistake. And I told them what I was allergic to. And if you have a history of depression, they say that you shouldn't take Cipro. And I told the doctor that, and she still gave it to me, and I got floxed, and I got really, really ill after the second pill. Look it up. It's actually really terrifying, and it kills a lot of people, but they don't talk about it as publicly as they did since COVID. When COVID happened, they started talking about like Cipro and fluoroquinolines and how dangerous they are. They have a black box label.
I don't want to take no
No.
flaxo.
Whole30, get rest, drink
Yeah,
good water. I mean, that's
yeah,
really it's the old school way, and to
I
me,
know.
that's the best way.
I'm like, I'm not, I'm certainly not anti-vax. I will take the vaccine. I have my
Oh,
flu
I'm
shot.
not either. Yeah.
Certainly not. But I really try to, if I have a headache, I do not pop Tylenol. I mean, that's the thing is like, I feel since I don't take Tylenol or Advil, like I don't have those things that require Advil or Tylenol. I really like, I rarely have a headache. I
Good.
rarely need like that's what I mean, but I do need to drink more water and I'm gonna go do that now.
You better do that. Thank you so much for being on Quarantine But Cute. Michael Kushner, live from New York. We love you all, and I'll be here next Wednesday and every Wednesday for your viewing pleasure, interviewing fabulous human beings just like Michael. Please check out his podcast on the Broadway Podcast Network. Every Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern is My Broadway Memory, and then Multihyphenate is when?
So my Broadway memory is every other actually it's gonna be changing. But my Broadway memory is tomorrow night at 7.
Yes.
The time and the dates are gonna be changing, so but Dear Multi Hyphenate is every other Monday. So an
Got it.
episode went out this Monday and now it's available for download today everywhere, and then not next week, but the next week after that, another episode will be out, and then vice versa. Same
Jazz
thing.
hands. I'm very excited.
Me too.
All right, babe. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Play this back. It'll be on the feed. Bye, y'all.
Bye.